encontramos en la Asamblea Legislativa acompañada por dos representantes de la Futbol Association, que es la asociación de fútbol más antigua del mundo. Ellos vienen directamente desde el Reino Unido para compartir con nosotros su experiencia en la prevención de la violencia en los estadios de fútbol. Good afternoon, Mr. Greg, Mr. Patrick. Thank you for coming today. It's a pleasure for us to have you here today. Could you define what is the FA and its aims?
The English FA is effectively the governing body of football in the UK. It has a number of different aims or goals, but the main one is the governance of football.
Specifically, you work in Wembley Stadium. Could you tell us a bit of your experience in this stadium?
Yeah, sure. I personally was in the old stadium as well, and then from the new stadium perspective, I've been responsible for the crowd management, specifically the safety, which is why we're here in Mexico to look at.
What is the reason of your travel here to Mexico?
We've been invited here by Congressman Santillan to provide insight into the change in legislation and the landscape of English football over the last 37 years, and to provide an overall assessment of their proposed law.
How has England lived hooliganism?
Hooliganism in the UK has been decreased over the last 30 years significantly, and that's basically down to the change of legislation, acts governing the control and sale of alcohol, banning orders.
Some people think that football reflects society. Society at the time, we were coming out of the 60s, which is or post-war, then 60s into the hippie era, and then sort of into social reforms and trying to get people back into normality. And some people think that the hooligans developed from that, from the working social classes. They then took that from the streets and into the football clubs. But the people within the social sets had always supported those clubs. It's just the violence that developed late 60s, early 70s and into the 80s, until such time as we legislated to mitigate a lot of the hooliganism.
And which are the differences between English and Mexican characters of people that you think could influence in this kind of violence?
I think let's be very clear, here in Mexico we didn't actually see any fans that we would preclude from our grounds at all. The atmosphere in Mexico is one of an absolute passion, and their emphasis is on the players, the referee obviously, but the referees get a bad press everywhere, and it's not actually at each other. And that's a big difference here in Mexico.
What do you think in general terms about the proposal of law here in Mexico? What is your opinion?
I think it's absolutely vital. If there is a want and a need to change the landscape of football, there must be a framework where stadium managers, clubs, association and the local government have defined responsibility, and ultimately all that can do is improve the level of safety within your grounds.
What about the sale of alcohol inside the stadium?
I have mixed views on this. You know, we in the UK have very strong legislation and laws around the sale of alcohol. Here in Mexico, as I understand it, you can consume or you can sell alcohol up until minute 55. We didn't witness any alcohol-related issues, and I honestly think that is down to the passion of the supporters, and the supporters here are a lot more passionate about their game, about their teams, than they are in the UK.
Which proposals do you suggest to Mexican society in order to improve in some way violence?
Look, I think first and foremost there must be a framework that allows all of the key stakeholders to come together, define responsibility, and understand, you know, what changes need to be made within stadia, outside of stadia, within the clubs and the communication from the clubs to the fans, to improve the landscape of football.
15 minutos antes y a golpes nos sacaron a todos, a los de abajo con gas lacrimógeno. No es justo.
Yo vi cómo golpearon a un joven y le dije, déjalo, no lo estés golpeando. Me está estaba haciendo nada la criatura. No es justo que se nos trate así.
Finally, would you like to send some message to Mexican society?
As a whole, you're in a very good place. You know, the fans enjoy their football, they're passionate about it. And I think that the introduction of this law and the ability for the fans and every other key stakeholder to have input into it will only benefit the football society and enrich the patron experience.
I think the Mexican football fans should be very, very pleased that Congressman Santillan and his office have put this act forward, because it will be for the absolute benefit of all concerned.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick, Mr. Greg, for your time, for sharing with us your experience in Wembley Stadium and with violence in stadiums. Muchísimas gracias por su atención.